Much has been said about the lessons of Vietnam. What do you see are the lessons of the Iraq War?
Me or?
You.
Oh, wow. Where do we start? We shouldn't have gone in. How's that? Let's start with that. You know, and that's the thing you just can't spin, is Barack Obama, when it was very politically unpopular, and you remember that. You remember how you were not a good American if you were against the Iraq War. He spoke out against the Iraq War. You know, and as Joe Biden pointed out pretty eloquently, I thought, in the debate, John McCain has been wrong on every single thing about Iraq. We'd be greeted as liberators. The oil money will pay for it. You know, there's been no violence between Sunnis and Shias. Where do you even start with John McCain? I mean, the American people want us out of Iraq. And what can I tell you? They don't want us in Iraq for 100 years. It's just, you know, it is absolutely, all of these arguments are ridiculous. Fighting al-Qaeda, they weren't there until we went in. It has been an absolute terrorist recruitment ground, and to me, like I say, it is the quintessential issue of our time.
KTLK AM 1150.
Dennis?
Well, first, to say that it was politically unpopular for a member of the Illinois State Assembly to oppose the war.
He was right.
Is a different read of Illinois State Assembly politics than I have. A Chicago politician being on the left, now that's risky. I got to tell you, that is one courageous fella. That's my man. There are a lot of lessons from Iraq. Maybe we shouldn't have gone in. I have said this all the time. The issue, whether we should have gone in or not, is now moot. The question is, what do you do now? That's what mature people actually ask about life. And that is the question before the American people. Some of the most vicious people on earth would conquer a country if we leave prematurely. I don't know how anybody who is left or right would welcome that idea. The New York Times acknowledged there may be genocide if we leave, and we'll have to deal with that then. That was a New York Times editorial. But if I may invoke the fact that I'm a Jew and a member of the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum Board, and take this stuff very seriously, I don't want to make a genocide possible. And that's what would happen. What is there to learn? Well, we made a lot of mistakes. And those mistakes were acknowledged by one Republican who really did, in fact, invite non-popularity, and his name is John McCain. And that man said, we are not embarking on it right. And let me just tell you something. There's a cliche.
Time's up, Dennis. Don't start.
How much?
Time's up.
Time's up?
Sorry.
Okay.
The Iraqi government wants us out. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, next question, Dennis.
Yep.
As an American, what's worth dying for? What's worth the sacrifice of American lives?
Well, there are two parts to that. One is what as a human is worth dying for, and then specifically what as an American is worth dying for. I think that it's most important to acknowledge at the outset that there are things worth dying for, and therefore things worth killing for. I don't think left and right would have a very big argument, most people on the left or the right, that there were things worth dying for. I think that most people on the left, I do not have the same view of you as you do of us, and I acknowledge that there are many wonderful people on the left. I think they're wrong, but I think that many are wonderful. And I believe that a lot of them would acknowledge, of course, if America is threatened, and they didn't feel that Iraq did, and that's fine, but truly threatened, then it is worth dying for one's country. I think most people on the left would argue that. It's worth dying for one's family. It's worth dying for democracy. I think that there are a lot of things that all Americans would agree with. The difference is not what is it worth dying for. The difference is largely when is it okay to kill? That's where I think left and right have a much larger separation between them. I think that the removal of Saddam Hussein, the greatest butcher of his time at that time, was a moral good. Whether it was politically wise, history will have to judge. But was it a moral good? A man who gave $25,000 to every Palestinian family that blew up kids in Israeli buses? Yeah, frankly, I asked this to the Israeli ambassador to the UN, Ambassador Gillerman, privately, and then I asked him, may I publicize this? And he said yes. I said, there are those who say Israel is less safe since we Americans got rid of Saddam Hussein because now Iran is strong. And he looked at me and he said, there are people who say that? You have to be kidding. You think we are less safe in Israel because Saddam Hussein is gone? He said, I can't believe anybody says that. I believe a moral good was achieved by the removal of a man who had rape rooms, where he hired people as professional rapists. I think the world is a better place thanks to his removal.
Time's up, Dennis.
I don't think anyone disagrees Saddam Hussein was a bad man, but probably 100,000 Iraqis have died as a virtue of our going into Iraq. And unfortunately, we tortured Iraqis and raped some of them at Abu Ghraib. On the orders of this administration. So, you know, Dennis, it's a slippery slope when we get into what's morally right or wrong. You know, one of the things about the left and right, have you found yourself when listening to Pat, if you're on the left tonight, listening to Pat Buchanan about Iraq and going, that's right, Pat, you're right. Oh, my God, I'm agreeing with Pat Buchanan. But then he goes, doesn't he have this new book about it? But we shouldn't have got involved in that whole World War II thing either. You know, that's where then I draw the line. I think Dennis is right. You know, there certainly are things that I think those of us on the left and right can agree, you know, are worth dying for. My dad was a prosecutor at the Nuremberg trials. So, you know, I think a lot of us on the left today just want the America back that we knew. It had to do with the Constitution and the rule of law and what people like my dad would think about Abu Ghraib and Guantanamo and what we're doing to the Constitution in this country today.
Dennis, do you want an extra minute?
I'm sorry?
Do you want an extra minute? You kind of agreed on that, so there's no real reason for a re-rebuttal, is there?
No, there is.
Oh, okay.
I think that this is wildly overstated, that we have shredded the Constitution, and it scares me that people believe that stuff. Because when there are real people from left or right who come to shred our Constitution, the left will have already used up all of that vocabulary, and you will have cried wolf. And the real shredders of the Constitution will then not be fought, because the non-shredders had already been called shredders.
I apologize. The president did not shred the Constitution. He wiped his ass with it. I apologize.
Stephanie, next question for you.
Is that for me?
No, it's for Stephanie. What is your take on the threat from Iran right now? How do they impact the security of the United States?
Well, we did them a big favor by invading Iraq and taking out their only enemy and emboldening them and creating an Islamic theocracy eventually in Iraq, which is now aligned with Iran. You know, another reason that this was just a huge strategic blunder going into Iraq in the first place. But, you know, certainly everybody is concerned about Iran, but you know, I think we've learned from Iraq that, you know, this saber rattling, it is not helping us around the world. The war on terror involves other countries helping us and giving us terrorist intelligence. You know, when the right goes all off on, you know, the fringe and for you to surrender monkeys, it's like, they're our allies, you moron. We need their help in this war on terror. And so, you know, Barack Obama saying we shouldn't be afraid to sit down with anybody. I mean, and the Bush administration has started doing it more. I mean, pretty much everything Barack Obama has said has turned out to be right foreign policy-wise. You know, he gets called naive and irresponsible that he's going to go into Pakistan with or without their cooperation, and they're like, oh, he's so naive and irresponsible. Meanwhile, the CIA's done it. They went in and took out al-Qaeda members in Pakistan. You know, you have to have a strong foreign policy, but a smart foreign policy. And that involves talking to other people around the world, you know?
Dennis?
Well, I'd just like to offer a reality check that, in fact, there are more pro-American administrations now in the West than there were when Mr. Clinton was president.
Oh, that's because George Bush is so popular.
I know it's an annoying fact. For the first time in a generation, France is governed by a pro-American